Problem children are coming from another world, aren't they? Begins by showing a young man named Izayoi Sakamaki, an arrogant young man who often tries to solve problems with violence but is also incredibly intelligent. Because Izayoi has a fairly strong physical strength and is used to solving all his problems using violence, he becomes very feared and respected by the delinquents in the area where he lives. One day, when Izayoi was relaxing by the river, suddenly an envelope fell from the sky. The envelope transported him to Little Garden, a place of supernatural powers called gifts. It turned out that not only did Izayoi miraculously move there alone, but two girls were summoned from the other worlds, namely Asuka Kudo and Yo Kasakabe. Asuka is a rich young lady from the World War II era and has the power to control people or objects. With her power, Asuka could control other people using her words. While Yo Kasakabe is a quiet girl who loves animals, can talk to animals, and uses the abilities of any animal she can befriend. Every day, Yo is often accompanied by a calico cat who is the first animal to befriend her. With her power that can use the animal's power, she can finally walk again after being paralyzed. Arriving at Little Garden, Izayoi then became acquainted with Asuka and Yo, where they then noticed the presence of a creature that had been watching the three of them. Not long after, the creature appeared and introduced herself as Black Rabbit, a rabbit-eared girl who resides in the Little Garden, and is the one who summoned the problem children. In addition, Black Rabbit is a judge master in the gift game, a competitive contest in the Little Garden that uses gifts. They can be hosted by anyone that can offer a prize. After that, Black Rabbit explained her reason for inviting the three of them to Little Garden, namely so that they could participate in the gift game that challenges players with games of varying danger while betting something in exchange for rewards if they win, with the rules written on Gia's scrolls that are absolute and changing. Black Rabbit also informed about the rules in Little Garden, where all residents must have a community. Since Izayoi and the others had just arrived there and had not joined any community, Black Rabbit then invites them into her own community of players. After that, Black Rabbit hosts a simple game so that Izayoi and the others understand more about the gift games, where she promises to carry out any one order from the three of them if they win the game. Even though Izayoi and the others only had one chance, they could easily win the game thanks to Izayoi's ingenuity. After that, Black Rabbit then brought the three of them to meet the leader of her community, the young boy named Jin Russell. However, upon arrival, Black Rabbit noticed that Izayoi had separated from them in search of fun. Black Rabbit then left Asuka and Yo with Jin, and rushed to find Izayoi's whereabouts. Elsewhere, Black Rabbit finally finds Izayoi, who is at the edges of the world, and challenges a giant white dragon who is the water god. Black Rabbit then asked Izayoi to retreat because she was sure that he would not be able to defeat the gods. However, Izayoi was surprisingly able to match the water god and managed to subdue him with great ease. Black Rabbit then took Izayoi's winning prize and approached him, where Izayoi then asked Black Rabbit about her real reason for summoning him, Asuka and Yo, to Little Garden. Black Rabbit finally revealed that her reason for calling the three of them was because she wanted to ask for help from them to save her dying community and hoped to restore the name and recapture the flag. She says that her community was defeated by the Demon Lord in a gift game several years before. Because of that defeat, her community lost the formal name and the banner and left only a few core members who had to care for 120 children aged 10 years and under. Meanwhile elsewhere, Asuka and Yo, who were walking with Jin, were approached by Galdo Gaspar, a beast man who is also the leader of a community named Forest Gallo, who invites the girls to join his community along with Black Rabbit. Gaspar then openly tells Asuka and Yo about what happened to Jin's community and mocks his community as no name for having lost their formal name and their banner. Gaspar tried to convince Asuka and Yo to join his much stronger group rather than joining the no-name community, which would not benefit them. However, Asuka and Yo refused to join Gaspar's community, and Asuka instead used her power to make Gaspar stop all his babbling. Elsewhere, Izayoi decided to help Black Rabbit and her community, as he only wanted to face strong opponents and win every gift game he entered. Black Rabbit and Izayoi then meet Jin and the others, where they are surprised by Asuka and Yo. who decide to challenge the Forest Gallo community in a gift game after learning of all the crimes that Gaspar has committed to advance his community. On the other hand, Izayoi apparently chose not to participate in the game because he wanted to see Asuka and Yo's abilities, and assumed that he would be presumptuous towards the two girls if he participated. Before the game started, which was scheduled to take place the next day, Black Rabbit then took Izayoi and the others to meet Shirayasha, a senior official at Thousand Eyes community. Despite her looking like a little girl, Shirayasha is one of the most powerful beings in Little Garden. Her true appearance is an elegant-looking lady with silvery white hair that flows all the way down to her waist. Knowing that Shirayasha used to be one of the most powerful demon lords, Izayoi, Asuka, and Yo were interested in her challenge. Shirayasha, who wanted to test the newcomer's abilities, then summoned Griffon, a hybrid of the two carnivores. The first half of his body is an eagle and the second half is a lion. Admiring the Griffon which he had seen in person for the first time, Yo immediately volunteered to ride the creature. With her power to talk to animals, she then politely introduces herself to the Griffon, who turns out to be Grai, making the animal a little curious about how Yo can talk to him. Knowing that the Griffon won't be that easy to let her ride it, Yo then make an offer. Namely, if she can't ride it throughout the allotted race, then the Griffon is allowed to prey on her. Amused by her proposal, the Griffon eventually lets Yo participate in the game. At first, Yo seems to be having a hard time staying on top of Griffon's back, as the wind speed and air temperature on the game board have been designed to test the newcomers in the game. However, her strong willpower to befriend the Griffon made her pass the challenge and win the game. After that, Shirayasha gave each of the three of them a gift card, where they could store any gifts inside them and see their names on them. After looking at his card, Izayoi immediately realized that his gift was very rare because nothing was written on it. Not much is known about his ability, as the gift card, a fragment of Laplace, could not categorize his ability and so named it unknown. Upon hearing Izayoi's remark about how his gift was special, she quickly took a look at the card and was fascinated by how not even a fragment of Laplace could reveal his gift. After that, Black Rabbit and Jin then took Izayoi and the others to a castle where the members of the no-name community lived. While Asuka and the others were asleep, Izayoi noticed the presence of a group of men and found several Forest Gallo members lurking around the no-name community area, where they planned to kidnap the children in the community to stop them. Being caught, they begged Izayoi to kill Gaspar because the Beast Man would kill them instead. Izayoi refuses to kill Gaspar and instead promotes Jin as a symbol of the no-name community. Izayoi did this so that the community had something to symbolize them, and also to make the declaration to fight against all demon lords, also to spread the word of their community for their lost core members to have a lead on them. Jin then told Izayoi that several core members of their community had been enslaved by Thousand Eyes, and some had even been made a prize by a demon lord in a gift game that would be taking place soon. The next day, as determined, Asuka and Yo also participate in the gift game, where they both have to fight Gaspar, who has now changed into his true form. Yo tries to fight the Beast Man, who turns out to have been turned into a vampiric one, while she seems overwhelmed by it. Yo is badly injured in the fight and collapses unconscious, so Asuka replaces her to face Gaspar. Although Asuka couldn't use her power on Gaspar according to the provisions in the gift game this time, she was able to use her power to enhance the mystical sword's power so that she could kill Gaspar. Once Gaspar is defeated, Jin goes to speak with the communities forced into service by Forest Gallo, where he returns their names and banners. Izayoi then takes the opportunity to tell the other communities about the No-Name's plan to defeat the Demon Lords and asks them all to remember Jin Russell's name as the one who saved them. That night, while relaxing alone, Izayoi is attacked by a mysterious girl who reveals herself to be Letitia Draculaire, a former demon lord and the core member of Jin's community, whom Jin wanted Izayoi to win as he is offered as a prize in a gift game. Letitia turned out to be the one who helped Gaspar to increase his powers and turned him into a vampire, which was deliberately done to test Asuka and Yo's abilities. Letitia then told them all that the gift game, which made herself a prize, had been cancelled because her owner, a man named Laius Perseus, intended to sell her to a buyer who was willing to pay a high price. When Letitia was fighting Izayoi to test his abilities, suddenly a group of men from the Perseus community intervened in their fight and accidentally turned Letitia to stone when she tried to save Asuka. Asuka and Black Rabbit did not stay when Perseus community forced Letitia away and then rushed to meet their leader, Laius Perseus, who was at Shirayasha's place. Black Rabbit then challenges Laius to a gift game to save Letitia. However, Laius refused and instead suggested that Black Rabbit swap herself with Letitia to save her. Black Rabbit looked undecided and asked for time to think about the proposal. On the other hand, Izayoi and Shirayasha turned out to have devised a plan for Laius to accept their challenge to host a gift game, so that Jin's community could save Letitia without losing the Black Rabbit. Long story short, the battle between Izayoi and Laius finally started. With his great power, Izayoi could easily defeat Laius and exiles him from being a part of the Thousand Eyes League. The moral we can learn from this anime is that sometimes when we are sent to another world, it means we have extraordinary abilities. So, don't be surprised if one day you wake up in Isekai, and maybe you are one of the chosen ones.